Let's get started. Call order a special meeting of the Public Works Authority. Determination of quorum and call to order. We have a quorum. We have 4 councilmen here. Mr. Lowry is on the 10. Action item 2, discuss possible action with respect to a resolution of the trustees of the Clinton Public Works Authority approving the preliminary official statement pertaining to the Clinton Public Works Authority's utility system and sales tax revenue bonds, Series 2014, and deeming said preliminary official statement near final, and authorizing distribution of the same, and authorizing the chairman or vice chairman of the authority to approve any corrections to said official statement and containing other provisions related thereto. Who wants to explain that?
All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Rick Smith with Municipal Finance Services. Now, this is really the bond attorney's night to shine. So Nate Ellis is here with Allen Brooks' firm to kind of go over the resolution. But I would like to take a minute to kind of update you. I know you've been getting some emails from the city manager and others with respect to the progress that has been made on the bond issue. And this is a very important evening with respect to the bond issue itself. As you know, we applied for a credit rating from Standard & Poor's on the bonds. We were informed last Thursday that after reviewing the information provided to S&P and also a conference call that we had with Mark and Deborah and the S&P folks last week, they assigned a credit rating of A with a stable outlook. That is an excellent rating. You know, we had talked about trying to get an A category rating, even an A- would not have surprised us, but they felt very comfortable with the city's financials, with this project, the steps that you have taken, and they assigned an A rating with a stable outlook. There's a rating report that I think may have been distributed to the council. We got that on Friday. I would suggest that you take a moment at your leisure to review that, but there were a couple of things that stood out. One was the strong financial management that the city has experienced, and they felt that was certainly a plus. They felt the rate increases that were adopted by the council, even though they were certainly significant, that it showed the council's commitment to providing water to the citizens. And frankly, that's the message that we've been trying to get across. And so with that evaluation and review by S&P, they gave us an A rating. The next step, as you will recall, was we were going to apply for a bond insurance policy. This insurance policy would basically guarantee the principal and interest on the bonds for the life of the bonds. And the insurance company that we were dealing with is called Build America Mutual in New York. It's BAM for short. So after we got the rating, we asked for the insurance company to advise us as to their interest in providing a guarantee or credit enhancement policy. They did so. They approved that yesterday. And the premium that they quoted to guarantee the total principal and interest over the next 30 years is about $63,000 to $65,000. Okay? So we felt like that premium, it's a one-time upfront premium. We felt like that would allow us to be able to use their credit rating, which is actually AA, all right, one notch higher than an A rating. And we went through an analysis to determine whether or not that was economical, and determined that it was. The most important thing that the insurance company did was that they also advised us that they would provide a surety bond for the reserve. Now, think back, you know, the reserve fund, we were anticipating that it would be a cash reserve out of proceeds. It was in the neighborhood of $1.9 million. It's basically 1 year's payment. But they agreed to provide a surety bond for a one-time upfront fee of about $27,000. Okay, so that basically means that we don't have to have almost another $2 million in bonds issued, all right, to cover that reserve fund. What I'd like to do before Nate steps up is I've passed out a very short report. Mark told me to keep it short tonight, he says, so I honor what he said. And I do want to show, if you'll just turn to the report that we just passed out. okay? 3 pages, that's it. Everything you need to know is in 3 pages, okay? First page is an interest rate chart. Fortunately, gentlemen, we've been able to continue to have a very strong interest rate environment in terms of low interest rates over the last few weeks. You know, when we started this process in September, we didn't really know where the heck rates were gonna go. But if you look at this chart here, you can see that we continue to have rates drop. They went up a little bit. This is over on the right-hand side, if you follow that graph. They went up a little bit over the last 2 weeks, and then they come back down. The point is that, you know, the low spot on interest rates was in December of 2012. Well, we're not very far away from that low spot, and that low or bottom was really an all-time low in interest rates in the United States. So we still have a very favorable interest rate environment to move ahead with our bond issue. The second page, and I always just throw this in here because I don't want to lose light of these projects. These are the projects that were approved by the authority a month or so ago. Of course, there's the phase 1 costs that is due Oklahoma Water. I meant to ask you, Mark, have you got an invoice or anything? Okay, all right. Then the water treatment plant, the injection well, you've seen these before, nothing's changed. Our intent is to deliver the $28.5 million to accomplish these projects. And I did want to put that in there once again, okay? The next page, or last page, is kind of a summary of what we may be discussing, taking action on tonight. We have sized the bond issue amount, the par amount, in the neighborhood of about 27.9 or about $28 million. Well, if you remember the last time I was here, we were talking about 30 or maybe 30.5 million, 30,500,000. Well, it's gone down. The par amount of what we're going to issue has gone down for a couple of reasons. One is we had almost $2 million in there for the reserve fund, and we don't need that now. So that has benefited us by being able to reduce the bond amount. As the bond amount goes down, all the costs that are tied to that are associated to the bond amount go down as well. All right, our fees, legal fees, other types of costs, okay? And so we're looking now at a bond issue amount of about $27.86 million. That will change as we get into pricing. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's in the ballpark. There's the use of funds. You've seen these before, all right? We just updated them. The water project funds, $28.5 million. You know, we're just going to capitalize 6 months of interest, all right? Then there's the fees for the surety bond, which is, like I said, is about $27,000. That's a one-time fee. Then there are underwriter fee, which is BOSC Inc. That's in your resolution tonight. There are other attorney fees. The bond insurance premium is about $64,000. It's based upon the total debt service, but that is significantly lower than what we had estimated a month or so ago. And then there are other costs as well. So that kind of shows you the use of the funds. The bond payment analysis, this is important. We've been having conversations with the underwriting group, even as late as today, on how we think the pricing might go on the bonds. We expect a net interest cost in the neighborhood of about 3.9%. All right, frankly, I think it's going to be less than that if things hold up okay over the next week. But it will be in that ballpark. Of course, we have the A underlying rating from S&P, and then we have the AA rating by virtue of the insurance policy. It's still a 30-year financing. Expect the annual payments to be in the neighborhood of about $1.8 million. If you remember, when we were here before, because we had a higher dollar amount, we were looking at debt service payments in the neighborhood of over $1.9 million. So we're certainly less than that. As far as the time schedule, this evening, we're going to ask the council to approve the resolution. Mr. Ellis will go over that. That basically authorizes the issuance of the bonds within certain parameters. All right? And that will be the last formal action necessary for the authority or the council to approve the issue. We anticipate marketing the bonds, the underwriter marketing the bonds a week from today, December 16th. We talked about doing it on Monday of next week, but the underwriter, and he's probably right, he said that they probably need to give people a day to kind of get in their office and get settled and to get focused. So they think there'll be more success if we wait until Tuesday to actually have an order period for the bonds. Now, if there are some local individuals within the community that have an interest in purchasing the bonds, or at least assessing or evaluating the purchase of bonds, we will provide information to Mr. Skiles that they can contact BOSC in Oklahoma City, and I'm sure that they would be glad to accommodate any local individuals that may have an interest in purchasing the bonds. Once the bonds are issued and the underwriting commitment provided, we would ask that a bond purchase agreement be executed by your chairman. You're going to approve that tonight, subject to these parameters, but that would need to be done on the 16th. We would then be working with the staff, Mr. Beecham, the attorneys, on the closing documents, and we would have set a closing on this issue on December 23rd, when the proceeds would be available and the funds in the bank. So I wanted to kind of go over that briefly with you. I guess I'm very excited that we got the credit rating that we got. They were very complimentary of Mark and Deborah in the call. I would also mention that Brian Meyer, your consulting engineer, was on that call and really did a good job of kind of explaining the nature of this project and the benefit that it will bring not only to Clinton, but also to the region around here. So I'll be glad to answer any questions, Seth, if the council or the authority have any. Otherwise, I'll just turn it over to Nate.
Is that the next resolution? Is that or, sorry, action item? Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think we're still on the
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're still on the first. All right. Any questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening. I'm Nate Ellis with Public Finance Law Group, your bond counsel. The first resolution that you have on the agenda, I guess this is number PW-14-07, is a resolution that approves the preliminary official statement. And what that is, that's the offering document that the underwriter is going to distribute to anyone and everyone that wants to see it, and is the basis for kind of an offer to sell the bonds. And so it approves the official statement, it deems it final for purposes of Rule 15C212, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and authorizes BOSC Incorporated as underwriters to distribute the preliminary official statement to anyone who's interested.
I make a motion that we adopt PW 1407.
Second.
Trustee Rhoda?
Yes.
Trustee Sumi?
Yes.
Trustee Hublin?
Yes.
And Chairman?
Yes. Regina? Action item 3 is supposed to be move on to that, don't we?
Pardon?
We're going to move on to action item 3, don't we?
Yes.
So this is the actual issuance of bonds. Keep going.
Okay. This is the official approval resolution of the PWA that authorizes the issuance of the bonds. I'm going to, there's a slightly updated, you might have noticed there was a highlighted provision at the bottom of page 1 in yours, and the reason for that highlighting was actually related to the bond insurance. At the time we passed around the drafts, we didn't know for sure that we had a bond insurance commitment. So relative to the surety policy, that was kind of placeholder language that we had in place in anticipation of that. So you'll note that actually in that first section 1, indebtedness authorized, where we list out the purposes. Of course, the first is constructing and acquiring improvements to the water system. Two is, again, the same language you have there, funding the cost of the reserve policy in order to satisfy the reserve requirement for the bonds. Actually added in number 3, funding certain capitalized interest, which again is contemplated all along, but just wanted to make that specifically stated in the resolution. And then 4, paying the cost of issuance in connection with the bonds. The aggregate amount that is approved by this resolution is not to exceed $33 million. Yes, that is significantly more than what we anticipate the final size, but the reason for that is based on what the underwriter's final pricing structure, and again, not knowing for sure whether or not we had to have the reserve in and everything, we wanted to make sure we have a high enough number. We'll ultimately close on such amount. And then you see the interest rate as well, not to exceed 4.9% of the net interest cost, significantly higher than what's projected at this point. What this resolution authorizes is that upon completion of the pricing, it authorizes the chairman or the vice chairman to execute a certificate of determination that sets out what the specific maturities and what those exact maturities and interest rates are going to be. And as long as they satisfy the parameter, then the approval has been met. So
Do you know when that number, when you'll have that number?
that'll be immediately post-pricing if they price next Tuesday.
We expect to market the bonds on Tuesday, so by Tuesday afternoon,
I'd make a motion that we adopt resolution PW 1408.
You have a second?
Trustee Burrow.
Yes.
Trustee Smith. Trustee Huber.
Yes.
And Chairman.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Consider a motion to adjourn the Public Works Authority portion of the special meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Huber.
Yes.
Trustee Burrow.
Yes.
And Chairman.
Yes, now I order this special meeting of the Clinton City Council as a quorum. Action item 2, it's like it's resolution 836, and it's also the issuance of bonds.
Okay. As a public trust, the public trust is the actual issuer of bonds. A beneficiary of that public trust is required to approve the actions taken by the public trust. So the purpose of this resolution is to authorize the actions that are being taken by the PWA and ratify the various documents and approve the same.
Make a motion.
I'll make the motion we adopt resolution 836.
I'll second that motion.
Councilman Burrow.
Yes.
Councilman Huber.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes. Yes.
Only other thing I would say is that it is our intent to provide, to be on the agenda on the 16th of your regular meeting, just to provide kind of the final numbers, all right, rates and so forth, as an informational item. It's not taking action, but I think it's something that the council as well as the public would like to know. We want to suggest that, that's all.
Great suggestion, I think. Nothing wrong with the information.
Good idea.
Anybody else?
Y'all done a good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, a lot of players in this deal.
A lot of meetings.
Thank you all for accommodating us tonight. Really need to have this meeting, Christie. Thank you.
Consider a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make that motion.